Galaxy Eyes Catapult Turtle FTK is ruining Yu-Gi-Oh! I'll have to use Tachyon technology to return to the past, to a time before Catapult Turtle was printed, and stop Konami from printing it in the first place. Ha-ya! Oh, I made it. That's hopeful. Let's go. Alright, I just need to make it to Konami headquarters and... Oh my god! Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. New cards, PogChamp, new cards, PogChamp. Maze of the Master is releasing on store shelves across America in just a few days. Despite what the magenta-pilled among you may be suggesting, the most powerful card in this world premiere set isn't the Odeon nonsense. It's the everything search spell, 7th Tachyon. Its applications are unthinkable, but there's one deck in which it might be so strong, it'll require a ban. Presenting Tachyon FTK. So here's the list. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, did you know I'm an affiliate for Player's Choice sleeves? Yes, that's right. The gold standard for Yu-Gi-Oh! Sleeves, talked about in Myth throughout the aughts, is back. And not back in the way that it was back, where a different company had the rights to produce the sleeves, so they were back, but the recipe was different and they weren't that good anymore. These are the PCs you remember. If you play Yu-Gi-Oh! You'll want the minis, which are currently almost completely out. I think there's some whites left, but keep an eye on the site for restocks, and always remember to purchase anything from their parent company, Japanime Games, using the link in my bio. Now back to the video. So with that, let's test out Tachyon FTK. Galaxy Tachyon is one of the most supported archetypes in Yu-Gi-Oh! History, which you may not know if you only ever pay attention to good cards. If you're unfamiliar, Galaxy Eyes, the parent archetype of Tachyon, is subdivided into Photon Dragons, which are Kite's monsters, and Tachyon Dragons, which are Mizar's monsters. If you think this is confusing, wait till you enter the hell that is search spells that can fetch 60% of the archetype, or locks that prevent some, but not all, galaxies. As a result, despite decades of support and a hand counter trap that negates all other effects on the chain, this deck's pretty much been relegated to Rogue for its entire lifespan. Until now! With the addition of 5 new relevant monsters in Maze of the Master, Tachyon has been completely transformed. Schwarzschild Infinite Dragon is just a free rank 8, Dragluxion is a free search of any Galaxy or Tachyon card on the way to another rank 8, Cloud Dragon is Poplar, and Primal is a searcher, an unbelievable target for half the deck, and the glue that holds everything together. Okay, now time for the other shoe to drop. Since Primal searches a Tachyon spell trap, you can search the recently released Everything Searcher, 7th Tachyon, and since the deck lacks a normal summon, you can still add the legal in the TCG Catapult Turtle, and since the deck can technically make a big-ass Numeron Dragon, you can FTK. What makes matters worse is that this FTK can be accomplished under just about anything thanks to the aforementioned hand counter trap, and if so interrupted you can't go off, can just end on 4 or 5 points of interaction anyway. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First up, the new ones. 3 copies of Rothschild Infinity Dragon, which can be summoned if you control no monsters, or your opponent controls a monster with 2,000 or more attack, and if it is, you can special summon a level 8 light or dark dragon monster from your deck in defense position, except Schwarzschild Infinity Dragon. You are Dragon Xyz locked for the rest of the turn after you activate this effect. After that, we've got our Poplar Tachyon Cloud Dragon, which if added to your hand, except by drawing, can be special summoned, and can be tributed to special summon a Tachyon monster from your deck or graveyard, except itself, and can attach itself to a Dragon Xyz monster as material when you summon it if it's in the graveyard or hand. After that, we've got the big boy Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Primal. When Dragon Xyz monster declares an attack, attach this card on the field to it as material. And the following effects are once per turn. If a Dragon Xyz monster is on the field, you can special this card from your hand to either field. And if normally special summoned, you get a Tachyon spell trap from your deck to your hand. We've got some pretty killer targets. We're playing 3 copies of Starliege Seyfert as a potential normal summon, 2 copies of Dark and Evaporation Dragon, which cleans up a lot of problematic game states. This, of course, allows you to banish a level 8 dragon monster from your extra deck to special summon this card from your hand, and you can't special summon for the rest of the turn except for dragons, which you are usually under in terms of a lock anyway. Finally, we are playing 1 copy of Galactic Spiral Dragon as a potential special summon target, and while this card is in your hand or graveyard, if you control 2 or more light or dark dragon monsters, it can be specialed, but it's banished when you leave the field, and it can modulate the levels of the monsters you control to 8. We are also playing Imseti, Happy, and a copy of King's Sarcophagus. Like in Gimmick Puppet, these serve the purpose of allowing you to play through exactly one point of interaction, and because your rank 8s trade for actual factual negation to protect your plays, it does a lot more than it did in that deck, which usually would just hope to trade for something like an Ash Blossom. We've also got 1 copy of Magnemite and 1 copy of Lubellion, followed by the boy, Catapult Turtle. God, this guy is not long for this world. We've got 3 copies of 7th Tachyon, which of course allows you to reveal a number in your extra deck between 101 and 107, and then add a monster with the same type or attribute to your hand from your deck. We're also playing 3 copies of 7th Ascension, which allows you to take a card from your deck. This is either a Barian spell trap, a Rum quick play, or a 7th spell trap that isn't 7th Ascension. Add it to your hand and put it on the top of the deck, and then if your opponent controls a monster specialed from the extra, it can be banished from the graveyard. A rank up magic can be sent from your hand to the graveyard, and this effect becomes that effect. It's just nice to have a bit of redundancy when it comes to the very powerful search spells. Finally, we're on 2 copies of Tachyon Transmigration. If you control a Galaxy Eyes as Chainlink 2 or higher, you can activate this card and negate the activations of all your opponent's spell trap cards and monster effects before this card in the chain, then shuffle those cards on the field into the deck. If you control a Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon, which occasionally we will, it can be activated from the hand. For non-engine, we're on 3 Ash Blossom to hedge against Fualos. We're on 3 Fualos to Fualos, 3 Triple Tactics Talents, and 3 Infinite Impermanence. In the extra, we are on a copy of Chaos Star Source Dragon for our little boy Dark End Evaporation, Zeus and Typhon, Cypher Blade, Dragooblion to cheat out powerful monsters with big attack stats, Hope Harb, Double Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon, which actually does something, a name on the field for this transmigration, Hieratic Sky Dragon, Overlord of Heliopolis. This is the one that protects if your opponent is going to target a card on your field or graveyard. 2 copies of Dragluxion, which, if special summoned from the extra deck, allows you to add a Galaxy or Tachyon card from your deck to your hand, and can detach 2 materials in order to special summon a rank 8 with 3000 attack from your extra using this card you control as material, then attaching a Galaxy from your extra deck to it as an additional material. 1 copy of Silent Honor Dark. This is just for flexibility when it comes to 7th Tachyon. Same for Masquerade, and then Numeron Dragon to get really big and then die, followed by Galaxy Satellite Dragon, which can activate its effect from the graveyard in order to increase attack points of your monster. In the side, we've got triple Ultimate Slayer, triple Forbidden Droplet, double Meowls, triple Lancia, and triple Nibiru. We're also playing 1 Archfiend Seraph, which is a rank 5 fairy for our big boy. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Azumina Mitsurugi Raizio. Cool list, not going to matter because we've opened the FTK. Our opponent's going to Fualos, we'll Ash Blossom, they will Fualos, and you know what? I figure we should just go for it. We're going to begin with a copy of Schwarzschild Infinity Dragon that's going to summon itself to our side of the field alongside a Galactic Spiral Dragon. They're going to draw 1 as we go into Dragluxion. We'll activate that effect in order to grab the copy of Primal Dragon, then activate its second effect in order to rank up into a Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon. From here, we can activate the effect of the Tachyon Primal, use its effect on field in order to grab a copy of 7th Tachyon, then activate the effect of the Galactic Spiral Dragon in the graveyard so we can overlay for a Dragooblion. From here, we'll go Dragooblion to go into a copy of Numeron Dragon. We'll trigger the effect of the Numeron Dragon to get up to 17,000, then 7th Tachyon to get ourselves a Catapult Turtle, normal summon that bad boy, and guess what? It's the end of the game. Woohoo! So that's what the deck does if it's allowed to FTK. And I'm going to be honest, none of the other replays are going to showcase the FTK because that'd be incredibly boring. Instead, our second match is going to be up against the Odeon stuff. Ooh, that's exciting. Maybe we'll put together a TMT about those in the near future, but for now they're going to be on the receiving end of our Tachyon talent. I do have to mention also these Nephthys cards aren't Nephthys cards. It's just EdoPro kind of auto-filling the art while people get it together. That's Anubis the Last Judge. So we're going to begin with a copy of, unsurprisingly, 7th Ascension. That's going to grab us a second copy of 7th Tachyon. We'll go for the effect of the Bestial Lubellion in order to grab a Magnemite, then 7th Tachyon, revealing 107, so we can go ahead and add from deck to hand a copy of Schwarzschild. We'll go for the Schwarzschild into an Ash Blossom. That's devastating. At that point, we're going to go ahead and activate Triple Tack, look at the hand, and shuffle back this copy of DDKC. Let's normal summon a Starliege Seyfert. We're going to send this Schwarzschild for a copy of Evaporation, which we will then activate, banishing this copy of Chaos Star Source, whose effect will trigger, allowing us to go into Dragluxion. We'll activate that effect in order to grab a Primal, then activate Primal's effect, summoning it to our side of the field, and triggering its effect on field in order to grab from deck to hand a copy of Tachyon Transmigration. Luxion's going to trigger here. We're going to go for the Tachyon Dragon before going for Magnemite, targeting one of our monsters and activating its on-field effect before we tag out for the Bestial Lubellion Seyfert in order to cycle back the Evaporation and Dragoobleon in order to go into Hope Harbinger. From this position, we will set 1, then resolve Magnemite for follow-up, passing it back to our opponent. Our opponent's going to begin with, you guessed it, this copy of Anubis the Last Judge. That's going to get them the Man with the Mark. They'll activate the Man with the Mark, and I guess we probably let that resolve. They will set in the field spell zone Treasure of the Kings, which we will negate, and they will overlay for Typhon. Typhon here is going to trade for our copy of Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon. They'll set 2 and pass. We should be good from this position. We're going to go for the effect of the 7th Tachyon. We rip off the top in order to grab from deck to hand a copy of Galactic Spiral. Let's get that Galactic Spiral onto our field, and then normal summon a copy of Seifert. Spiral triggers here. We're going to go for the Tachyon Dragon, going to the battle phase, getting in for 3, 3, 3, and then in battle phase, we can activate the Graveyard effect of the Satellite Dragon in order to get in for lethal. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's on what else but Fiendsmith Ryziel, and I don't know, maybe. Let's begin with a copy of the 7th Ascension. That's going to grab us from deck to hand a copy of 7th Tachyon. We'll activate 7th Tachyon here, and then afterwards we will go ahead and grab ourselves a copy of Schwarzschild, putting back an Ash Blossom. They will Fuwalos in response to the Schwarzschild, but bad news for you, we've got the Ash Blossom. Schwarzschild comes out, we'll get a copy of Galactic Spiral Dragon. Let's go ahead and check out that grip, and ooh, just a Druisworm. We can probably play through that. Let's go Dragluxion here in order to grab a copy of Tachyon Primal. We'll trigger the effect of the Tachyon Primal to summon it to our side of the field, then activate the effect in order to grab a copy of Tachyon Transmigration. Dragluxion can, of course, translate into a copy of Hieratic Sun Dragon, then we can use the Graveyard effect of the Galactic Spiral to overlay for a Dragoobleon, which enables us to finally end on a copy of Galaxy Eyes Tachyon. We'll set 2 and pass back to our opponent, who will draw for turn. They're first going to lead with a copy of Druisworm. We will go ahead and prevent that, because, of course, it is targeting a card in our graveyard. Next, they're going to go for Bonfire. That is worth a Transmigration, because we know the remainder of the hand. They're going to go for an Ice Ryziel. We will go for the second Transmigration here. All right, good stuff. We know they have Allurion. They've used their normal summon, so they will pass here, and we'll just switch these bad boys to attack position and get in for well over lethal. Our second match is a little interesting. We seem to have drawn into too much non-engine versus a deck that lives to get into non-engine wars. They're going to begin with a copy of Ice Ryziel. We will Fuwalos. They're going to summon a copy of Sword. We will just go ahead and draw a card off that. They'll go Sword in order to grab a copy of Ext, then summon the Ext using its effect on field in order to grab a node. From here, they're going to overlay for a Detonator. We draw another card. They will Detonator. We will go for the Magnemite targeting the Eclipse Twins, which prevents them from getting the Twins online. Then we'll go for the effect of the Magnemite on field. It's kind of funny. We kind of wanted them to extend further, I think. Here we're going to go for the 7th Ascension. That's going to grab from deck to hand another copy of Tachyon and unfortunately play very badly into Droll. We'll go to battle phase and then in damage activate the effect of Forbidden Droplet to get this Detonator off the field, but as you can see, they have a lot going for them. They draw the Fiendsmith. Oh, so miserable. They're going to go for Tract here, then activate the effect of the Tract. Tract is going to get them a Lurry. They'll pitch the Lurry, then use the Lurry effect to summon it to their side of the field, and this card just trades for so many pieces of interaction. Here, activating the Lacrima on field in order to send a copy of the Fiendsmith to the graveyard, then Fiendsmith in graveyard, shuffling back the Lurry to summon it to their side of the field, and Requiem targeting the Fiendsmith so they can then eat our copy of Magnemite. We'll let that happen, and they'll go into a Chaos Angel here, targeting a back row. We will activate the Infinite Impermanence on the Chaos Angel, but it's still kind of a problem. They're going to special summon this copy of Sword Ryziel, then activate its effect, then normal summon this copy of Ice Ryziel to activate its effect. Down comes another Sword Ryziel. They'll go to the battle phase. 35, 15, 17, 15. Oh my god, we're dead. So it's time for that all-important game 3, and if that isn't the most beautiful Ryziel hand you've ever seen. Look at that. 4 pieces of non-engine and an Ext. Alright, our grip is pretty good too. They're going to begin with a copy of Fuwalos. We are going to go ahead and activate King Sarcophagus. We'll use King Sark to pitch Imseti here, send a copy of Happy, and then we'll summon the Imseti and the Happy before we overlay for a copy of Dragluxion. That draws them 1. They will Ash Blossom the Dragluxion, which is miserable, but that's in the main phase, so now we do have an opportunity to triple attack. We're going to draw 2. We'll go 7th Tachyon, reveal 107. Let's go ahead and grab a copy of Primal. Afterwards, we're going to activate the effect of the Primal, summon it to our side of the field, and the effect of the Primal in order to grab from deck to hand a copy of Tachyon Transmigration. We'll just set that and pass. Our opponent's going to draw for turn. From here, they're going to go for an Extra Ryziel, activate its effect alongside the Mirror Logic Aggregator, negating the effect of the Tachyon Primal. From here, they're going to normal summon a copy of Sword Ryziel, activate its effect in order to go ahead and grab a powerful minion into a duo drive, which probably forces the Transmigration. They can still get pretty far here. Down comes Ice Ryziel. They're going to summon from deck a copy of Node Ryziel. Then afterwards, we will Bestial Magnemite this copy of Mirror Logic Aggregator. They will chain the effect of their own Bestial Druisworm to keep it out of the graveyard before going Node, targeting the Ext, and going to the battle phase. They'll walk over the Dragluxion and eat our entire board before getting in for 17-14, then in main phase 2, just overlaying for the fatty 3-mat Detonator. They'll activate the effect of the Detonator targeting the Ext and pass back to us. Still not bad. From this position, we of course can just summon our guys back here, Imseti and Happy. We'll go to the battle phase and use the effect of the Sarcophagus to put this copy of Detonator into the graveyard before getting in for 3k. In main phase 2, we're going to overlay for another Dragluxion. We'll activate the effect in order to grab a copy of Cloud Dragon. They will Droll and Lockbird in response, but we do still get to summon it. We'll use its on-field effect to tribute it for a copy of Primal from the graveyard. They will Nibiru from this position, but that is the last card in their hand. They're going to have to draw crazy if they want to get out of this one. We're going to go for the effect of the Evaporation Dragon and activate its effect in order to get rid of the Nibiru, daring our opponent to draw out of it. They are going to draw for turn. That is not sufficient. They will set it and pass, and we should be able to win this just off the back of the King's Sarcophagus. We'll summon back the Imseti and the Happy and go to the battle phase over for just a little before getting in for well over lethal. So we're back with the deck, and what I say, even without the FTK, this gets the job done. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1. The new Tachyon stuff finally makes the sub-archetype of Galaxy playable on its own. With targeted searchers, the deck can hone in on powerful cards like Tachyon Transmigration, one of the most powerful counter traps in the game. 2. 7th Tachyon is like the craziest card ever printed. It can search every engine monster in your deck. It can search Catapult for FTKing, Infinity Dragon for comboing, Lancia in games 2 and 3 against Malice. It gives the deck a ton of consistency and freedom of access to tech cards to reward creative deck building. And 3. Even if you don't FTK, you usually end on at minimum 2 negates. One is an Omni counter trap that shuffles cards back, which is kind of powerful enough to justify the deck on its own. And the cons. 1. This variant is a little more fragile. Now, you can play this deck without the FTK, but the FTK variant gives you this automatic I win button alongside a whole host of weaknesses. By focusing on rank 8 consistency for the FTK, the deck does lose access to its normal summon a lot of the time and has to play extra combo engines to supplement it instead of just playing more defensive and installation cards. While it is explosive, playing just for the power of boards featuring Transmigration seems much better in like a real match environment. 2, unless you hard draw 7th Tachyon, the deck does require 2 searches to find Catapult Turtle, so a Droll and Lockbird will shut the FTK down pretty consistently. Nibiru is also an issue, but less so, because if you draw 7th or Transmigration, you can make plays to prevent it from resolving. And 3, most hands won't FTK through any one-hand trap, but struggle to put out anything meaningful altogether into 2. The low non-engine count often means you're not going to establish board into heavy non-engine decks. Overall, the Tachyon cards themselves are really strong, and Turtle is the icing on the cake. Here's hoping they ban the Turtle, which I imagine they will if there's a list at Vegas, or we might see an FTK creep into the format. So that's that. Thanks so much for watching. These videos are made possible by, and occasionally suggested by, my patrons, some of whom have paid a ton of money to be mentioned at the end of the video. A huge heartfelt thank you to Elena Tincher, Alex Perea, Allison Elliott, Ally, Anthony S. Sierri, APK, Early Tier 0, Brett Henry, Cool Name, Damon O'Neill, Dark Rebel XYZ, Derpin Dragon, DJ Elefante, DK Gondo, NB Adams, FPS Lord Derp, Garrett Ran, Hergalicious, Juan Cruz Avilazati, Night Mary, Legal Rights, Luis Hernandez, Lullaby of Souls, Master of Faster, Matthew M. Derezzo, MBT Play Madolce, Mike Carlotti, N54 Lionheart, Nacho Gonzalez, Nebula Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pombo, Project Mercury, Rohan Doge, Rose Lapine, Serpentax, Shelby Piet, Sly Ninja 43, Soul CLG, Troy Says By Erasure Is Gay, Who Is Nick, Wonder Waffle, and Yuki Kazami. Couldn't have done it without you.